The Boy Who Reversed Himself by William Sleator. 1. Funny things were going on inside my school locker. First, there was the note that appeared there one morning in February, a folded piece of paper taped to the inside of the door. But no one else knew the combination. The lock had not been broken. The door did not seem tampered with. I unfolded the piece of paper. On it was written, Erlo. Ires heb os waramat snip nesrun agivning sai noxig it mer just nu quonk coop jagelby ve ne oan ETSRN Ubust Ot Losk Lescom Otni Teg Nak U Os Lel Ob Ot Sig Verusive A. At first, I could make no sense out of it. Then I recognized the word at the top right-hand corner. It was my name written backwards, with all the letters reversed, mirror writing. Maybe that was why it had been taped right under the little mirror I had hung inside the door so I could make sure my hair and makeup looked okay. I held the note up to the mirror. Laura, Mr. Dixon is giving a surprise quiz tomorrow, so be sure to study Chapter 10 in the biology book. I know you want to do well so you can get into medical school. Signed, a friend. What's the matter, Laura? You look like you've seen a ghost, Pete said, coming up behind me. I almost jumped. Nothing, I said, quickly crumpling up the note. But I was a little frightened now. I did not recognize the handwriting on the note. It was strange enough that this unknown person knew about the surprise quiz, though I supposed there were ways a kid could figure out something like that. But what was really unnerving was the part about medical school. Nobody, not even my parents, knew I wanted to be a doctor. Not to mention, how had the note gotten into my locker in the first place? And why was it in mirror writing? I didn't like it. But I didn't say anything about the note to Pete. He was the most popular boy in the class, handsome and athletic and taller than me. I had been the tallest girl in junior high and had never had a boyfriend. Now in 10th grade, I seemed to be turning out to be pretty after all, and Pete had walked home with me twice after school and had started calling me up in the evenings. But I had to be careful with him. I didn't want him to connect me with anything peculiar. When Pete called up that night and asked me what I was doing, I said I was studying. But not that I was studying Chapter 10 in the biology book. You're always studying, he said. Maybe that's why you're so serious. You ought to loosen up more, have fun, like your friend Arlene. She's always laughing about something. I restrained my impulse to tell him to call her up then if she was so amusing. Instead, I said, you just haven't had a chance to see my crazy side. I bet you'd be surprised. Yeah, he said. The next day, there was a test. Everybody complained about it. I got a perfect score, but I told Pete and Arlene I did as badly as they had. Obviously, neither of them had left the note. But who else would have? It was baffling. After school that day, I went to the hardware store and bought a new lock. It was a different kind, cylindrical, with 4 dials to turn. You could pick any 4 numbers you wanted and set them so that only those numbers would open the lock, meaning you could change the combination if anyone else found out what it was. And the man at the store assured me that it wasn't possible for someone to crack this lock by fiddling with the dials. Then, 2 days later, the day the big biology report was due, the doorbell rang while I was eating breakfast. It was Pete. I was so flustered that I left the report on the breakfast table. I didn't even realize I had forgotten it until Pete dropped me off at my locker. Then I saw I didn't have it. I groaned. There was no time to go home and get it. It was a lab report on the frog we had dissected, and I'd done a lot of work on it, making beautiful drawings of all the organs, redoing it several times until it was perfect. I'd made sure to have it ready on time. I had to do well in science if I was going to get into medical school, and now I had left it at home. I clearly remembered it sitting there on the kitchen table. Of course, Mr. Dixon would never believe me. He was the kind of teacher who'd just think the report wasn't ready. I felt like crying as I turned the 4 dials and pushed open the locker. And there was the report, lying on the metal shelf at the top. But it couldn't be. I knew I had left it on the breakfast table. Feeling a little dazed, I picked it up. Typed neatly on the back cover was, Vi. Turupper. Ball. Inside, the entire report was backwards, the type running from right to left, all the letters and drawings reversed. No! I shouted. It was my report, all right. But I hadn't done it backwards. No typewriter wrote that way. It was impossible, like being in some kind of horrible nightmare. I threw the report back inside the locker, as if it were burning my fingers. Without thinking, I slammed the door and spun the dials, the way I used to on the lock I'd had before. An instant later, I realized what I'd done. I had changed the combination without looking at the numbers. Now I didn't know what the combination was. I couldn't get the report out of the locker, and even an impossible reversed report was better than no report at all. I carefully turned the dials, hoping the previous combination would still work. It didn't. The bell rang. I groaned again and kicked the locker. What's the matter, Laura? It was Omar, the boy who had moved in next door to me. Oh, I can't get this stupid locker open, I said, and my report's inside. Dixon is going to kill me. Go to biology class, Omar said. I'll get the report for you. I sighed and rolled my eyes. Cut it out, Omar. Don't bother me now. He gave me a long look. I'll get it for you, he said quietly. Go on, or you'll be late. So will you, I said, but I took off down the hall. I didn't want to be late as well as minus my report. Then it hit me. Maybe it was Omar who had left me the note and put the report inside the locker. Mom could have given it to him on the way to school. It was infuriating that a creep like Omar could be invading my private space. Still, if he really could break into the locker, he would save me in biology. I spun around to see what he was doing with the lock, but Omar had vanished. And that's the end of chapter 1.